تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So carrying on then with Al-Aqidah Al-Wasitiyyah of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, we got to the section Sifatul Afu wal-Maghfirah wal-Rahmah wal-Izzah wal-Qudrah. So a few different points are going to be mentioned in this section. Al-Afu, the pardoning, and Al-Maghfirah, the forgiving, and Al-Rahmah, the mercy, Al-Izzah, Al-Qudrah, the might and the power and the ability. All of these are going to be mentioned here now in this section. So the first ayah, Al-Ayatul Ula fil Afu wal Qudrah, regarding pardoning and ability. قوله إن تبدوا خيرا أو تخفوه أو تعفوا عن سوء فإن الله كان عفوا قديرا. So the ayah says, if you make apparent the good, or you conceal it, or you pardon from some evil, then indeed Allah is the all-pardoning and all-capable. يعني إن تفعلوا خيرا فتبدوه أي تظهروه للناس, meaning if you do some good and you make it apparent to the people, أو تخفوه, or you conceal it, يعني عن الناس, you conceal it from the people, فإن الله تعالى يعلمه, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows of that. ولا يخفى عليه شيء, and nothing is concealed from him. So if you do something of goodness and you make that apparent and visible, or you conceal it from the people, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of all of that which you do. And in the second ayah, وفي الآية الثانية إن تبدوا شيئا أو تخفوه فإن الله كان بكل شيء عليما, that if you make an affair apparent or you conceal it, فإن الله كان بكل شيء عليما, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware, all knowledgeable of every affair, whether you make it apparent or whether you conceal it. وهذا أعم يشمل الخير والشر وما ليس بخير ولا شر. So this ayah is more general than the first one. The first one talked about doing specifically some type of goodness or some type of bad, but this ayah is open to any action, whatever the action may be, that whatsoever the action is of whatever nature, concealed or apparent, then Allah is all knowledgeable of it. وَلِكُلِّ آيَةٍ مَكَانُهَا وَمُنَاسَبَتُهَا لِمَنْ تَأَمَّلْ. And both ayat, they have their position and their appropriate circumstances for it, for the one who thinks about them. وَقَوْلُهُ أَوْ تَعْفُوا عَنْ سُوءٍ, that you pardon some evil, that you pardon and overlook some evil. Al-afu huwa at-tajawuz an al-uquba. Al-afu, pardoning, is to bypass or to allow to pass some punishment. That you do not hold someone accountable and punish them upon an affair, you let them go. So you have pardoned them. It is at-tajawuz an al-uquba, to bypass the punishment upon someone, to bypass the accountability upon someone. So therefore you have pardoned that person. فَإِذَا أَسَاءَ إِلَيْكَ إِنسَانٌ. So if a person does some bad to you, if a person does some bad to you, فَعَفَوْتَ عَنْهُ, and you pardon him, you bypass and overlook the affair, despite that person having done some bad to you, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى يَعْلَمُ ذَلِكَ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that, knows what has occurred, and that perhaps someone did some evil to you or bad to you, but you allowed it to pass, you allowed it to go, so you pardoned that individual and did not hold them accountable upon it. ولكن العفو يشترط للثناء على فاعله أن يكون مقرونا بالإصلاح. But pardoning someone, the goodness from that or the praise upon doing that is connected to rectification. That you are going to attempt, or it is for the purpose of bringing about rectification. And so you pardon a person over an affair. And that's in the Quran. فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. So whomsoever pardons and rectifies, then his reward is with Allah. Whoever pardons and rectifies, then his reward is with Allah. وَذَلِكَ أَنَّ الْعَفُوَ قَدْ يَكُونُ سَبَبًا لِلزِّيَادَةِ فِي الطُّغْيَانِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Because pardoning may be a reason for the increase in transgression and enmity from a person. When you pardon someone, it may bring about a result that is not the suitable and appropriate result. Pardoning someone and letting them go, it may allow that person to think they got away with it, and they continue and do even more transgression and wrong. Maybe that could occur. وَقَدْ يَكُونُ سَبَبًا لِلْإِنْتِهَاءِ عَنْ ذَلِكَ. But sometimes it may be a reason, a cause to stop that evil. That person may stop what he's doing then, when he sees that he was pardoned, when he sees that he had done wrong, and yet the person pardoned him and allowed it to pass and didn't take it up, then maybe that person, that causes him to think, and that may be the reason for him to then stop. وَقَدْ لَا يَزِيدَ الْمُعْتَدِي وَلَا يَنْقُصُ. And maybe in some cases you pardon a person, but nothing changes. He doesn't increase in his transgression, but neither does he stop. Pardoning him, he just carries on as he was, no change. That may occur. So now the Shaykh is going to talk about these circumstances. He says, فَإِذَا كَانَ سَبَبًا لِلزِّيَادَةِ فِي الطُّغْيَانِ كَانَ الْعَفُوُ هُنَا مَذْمُومًا وَرُبَّمَا يَكُونُ مَمْنُوعًا. If pardoning someone is going to lead to a greater level of transgression from them. Some people, if you pardon them, they think they got away with it, they think they can do what they want, they think they have control, so they continue and transgress even more after that. If that's what's going to happen, then in that case, pardoning a person in that type of circumstance is dispraiseworthy. Because you're going to cause them to become more transgressive. It's dispraiseworthy. وَرُبَّمَا يَكُونُ مَمْنُوعًا. And it may even be prohibited. It may even be prohibited in that circumstance for you to pardon someone in that case. مثل أن نعفو عن هذا المجرم. So for example, we pardon a criminal ونعلم أو يغلب على الظن أنه يذهب فيجرم إجراما أكبر. And maybe we pardon a criminal who's done some criminal act, we pardon him. But we overwhelmingly are aware from this person and his character that if you let him go and just pardon him and don't do anything, then it's very likely from this particular criminal, this particular individual, that he's going to go and do even worse crimes. If you just let him go, pardon him, it's very likely this criminal, the way he is, he's going to go end up doing even worse crimes. Then in that case, فهنا لا يمدح العافي عنه بل يذم. In that case then, the one who pardons him is not praiseworthy. In that case, he's dispraiseworthy. Pardoning the individual, knowing or overwhelmingly thinking that the most likelihood from this type of person and the way he is, he's just going to go and become even more transgressive, but you still just pardon him, then that's not praiseworthy in that case. It is dispraiseworthy in that case. The second circumstance, وَقَدْ يَكُونُ الْعَفُو سَبَبًا لِلْإِنْتِهَاءِ عَنِ الْعُدْوَانِ. That the afu, pardoning someone, may be a cause for that person to stop his transgression. It may be a cause for that person to stop his transgression. بحيث يخجل. That person, he transgressed, he did some wrong to you, but you let it pass and you pardon him. Maybe that person will feel shyness after that. Maybe he will feel embarrassed at what he did. That he did this wrong to you, and yet you just let it go and pardoned him and didn't take him accountable for it. Maybe he will feel some shyness and embarrassment by that. هذا الذي عفى عني لا يمكن أن أعتدي عليه مرة أخرى. The person may think, this individual, all the bad I did to him, but he just pardoned me and he didn't do anything to me. Maybe the person will think then that he's not going to do anything oppressive to this individual again. He's not going to transgress against that individual again. وَلَا عَلَى أَحَدٍ غَيْرُهُ. And neither upon anyone else besides him. Neither upon anyone else besides him. فَيَخْجَلْ أَنْ يَكُونَ هُوَ مِنَ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. So then he becomes shy and embarrassed from being from the oppressors, from the transgressors. وَهَذَا الرَّجُلْ مِنَ الْعَافِينَ. فَالْعَفُو هُنَا مَحْمُودٌ وَمَطْلُوبٌ وَقَدْ يَكُونُ وَاجِبًا. So this individual who has pardoned him, that's good. That is praiseworthy in this case. It is praiseworthy and it is required in that situation and in that case that he does pardon that individual in that case. وَقَدْ يَكُونُ وَاجِبًا. It may even, in some circumstances like that, be obligatory for you to pardon that person. Because you know rectification is going to come from it. or you greatly expect rectification to come from it, so then you pardon and let it go and don't say anything. Thirdly, وَقَدْ يَكُونُ الْعَفُو لَا يُؤَثِّرُ لَا ازْدِيَادًا وَلَا نَقْصًا. The third circumstance was where the pardoning of that individual, pardoning him, will not lead to any increase nor decrease. He's just going to carry on as he is. He will not become more transgressive, oppressive, neither will he reduce his transgression and oppression. You pardoning him doesn't do anything. He just carries on as he was. Then in that case, which one should you do? Should you pardon or should you not? Because it's not going to impact either way. Pardoning him is not going to get any better. He's not going to reduce his errors. But at the same time, he's not going to increase them or become worse. So there's no difference or change. Should you pardon or not in that case? Pardon. The Shaykh says, فَهُوَ أَفْضَلُ. It is better. It is better in that case than pardoning. The situation isn't going to change either way. For you then, from your perspective, take the upper hand and pardon him. لقوله تعالى وأن تعفوا أقرب للتقوى. And that you pardon is closer to taqwa. That you pardon the individual is closer to taqwa. That is closer to piety for you. So in that circumstance, as Shaykh Al-33 says, it is better to pardon the person. وهنا يقول تعالى أو تعفو عن سوء فإن الله كان عفوا قديرا. That you pardon from some bad or evil, and Allah is the all-pardoning and all-capable. يعني إذا عفوتم عن السوء, that if you pardon from some evil, some bad, عفى الله عنكم, then Allah will pardon you. You pardon someone for some wrong they've done, then Allah will pardon you. وَيُؤْخَذُ هَذَا الْحُكْمِ مِنَ الْجَوَابِ. How do we know that? How do we know that if you pardon someone and show that good behavior and etiquette, that Allah will then pardon you for your shortcomings and wrongs? The ayah is the evidence, but how? The ayah says, أَوْ تَعْفُوا عَنْ سُوءٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَفُوًا قَدِيرًا. That if you pardon from that wrong or bad, then Allah is the one who is all pardoning and all capable. That last part of the ayah is the evidence. When Allah says at the end, if you pardon, Allah is the one who is all pardoning, or He is the one who pardons, and He is the one who is all capable. يعني فإن الله كان عفوا قديرا يعني فيعفو عنكم مع قدرته على الانتقام منكم. That Allah pardons you despite having the ability to take revenge on you. Allah pardons you despite having the ability to take revenge on you. فَيَعْفُ عَنْكُمْ مَعَ قُدْرَتِهِ عَلَى الْإِنْتِقَامِ. So He pardons you despite having the ability to take revenge on you. وَجَمَعَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى هُنَا بَيْنَ الْعَفُوِ وَالْقَدِيرِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala combined here between those two, pardoning and being capable. Al-afu wal-qadir. Al-afu wal-qadir. لأن كمال العفو أن يكون عن قدرة. Because the perfection, the reality of pardoning someone is when you have the ability to actually go and take revenge, You could have made various affairs public and made known and refuted, and you could have done things. You had ability. You could have taken care of things. But despite that, you forgive, you pardon. Despite that, you pardon. As for the one, so that obviously is a high level. The one who can pardon someone even though he has the ability to take revenge on that person. Has the ability to do things, but he doesn't. And he pardons. That's at the high level. As for someone, أما العفو الذي يكون عن عجز. As for the pardoning which occurs from a position of weakness, meaning you don't have any ability to say anything to that person, to take revenge, to do anything anyway. You don't have the ability anyway, so you pardon. So you pardon, that's still good, but you never had the ability to take revenge. So that's not as high as someone who could have taken revenge, but he held back and he pardoned. That's what the Shaykh mentions. أما العفو الذي يكون عن عجز فهذا لا يمدح فاعله لأنه عاجز عن الأخذ بالثأر. So a person who pardons from a position of weakness, that isn't necessarily praiseworthy because he's only pardoned because he had no choice. He had no ability to do anything else. He had no choice. He had to pardon, couldn't do anything else. So that isn't the ultimate praiseworthy situation. But the praiseworthy situation without a doubt is when someone has the ability to take revenge, yet they pardon. وأما العفو الذي لا يكون مع قدرة فقد يمدح لكنه ليس عفوا كاملا بل العفو الكامل ما كان عن قدرة. So when somebody doesn't have ability to take revenge anyway, but they pardon someone, then that could be praiseworthy because the person may genuinely have pardoned that person. Even if he had the ability, he would have still pardoned the person. So it could still be praiseworthy. It could still be praiseworthy even when he's in a situation of not being able to take revenge. It could still be praiseworthy. But the perfection of the praiseworthiness is definitely at a situation where somebody definitely has the ability to speak up and do things, but he doesn't, and he pardons. In that situation, you have the perfection of the pardon. وَلِهَذَا جَمَعَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى بَيْنَ هَذَيْنِ الْإِسْمَيْنِ. And for that reason, Allah combined between these two names, Al-Afu wal-Qadir. Al-Afu wal-Qadir. And that's why Allah, Al-Afu wal-Qadir. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala combined between these two names, Al-Afu and Al-Qadir, that He is the one who pardons, but He is the one with ability. He could have taken revenge upon that person and punished that person, but He pardons that person. So that indicates the perfection of the pardon. The perfection of the pardon because he could have taken revenge but didn't. And so that is perfection in pardoning that person. فَالْعَفُو هُوَ الْمُتَجَاوِزُ عَنْ سَيِّئَاتِ عِبَادِهِ وَالْغَالِبُ أَنَّ الْعَفُو يَكُونُ عَنْ تَرْكِ الْوَاجِبَاتِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ عَنْ فِعْلِ الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ. So the afu is the one who bypasses or overlooks the wrongs of his servants. Talking about Allah, overlooking, bypassing, pardoning the wrongs of the servants. وَالْغَالِبْ أَنَّ الْعَفُو يَكُونُ عَنْ تَرْكِ الْوَاجِبَاتِ. And mostly the situation of al-afu, of pardoning, occurs in relation to someone who has abandoned obligations. If a person has abandoned obligations, they are the ones in the type of situation where they may receive the pardon of Allah. Because Allah could have held them accountable upon the abandonment of the obligations and punished them upon it. but Allah pardons them and does not punish them. So normally pardoning will occur upon the abandonment of obligations. وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ عَنْ فِعْلِ الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ. And as for al-maghfirah, forgiving typically occurs when someone does haram actions. Pardoning for the one who has abandoned the obligations. Forgiving for the one who has fallen into the prohibitions. والقدير ذو القدرة وهي صفة يتمكن بها الفاعل من الفعل بدون عجز. And Al-Qadir is the one with perfectibility, whereby the person can do, or the one who has that ability can do whatever he wishes without any weakness, without any deficiency. He is able to do as he wishes to do, then he is Al-Qadir ذو القدرة. وهذان الاسمان يتضمنان صفتين وهما العفو والقدرة. And these two names, they contain the two attributes, and they are the attributes of al-afu, pardoning, and al-qudrah, ability. Al-ayatu الثانية, the second ayah that is mentioned here then, في المغفرة والرحمة, in regards to forgiving and mercy. Forgiving and mercy, forgiveness and mercy. قوله تعالى وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And let them pardon and forgive and overlook. Do you not love that Allah should forgive for you? Allah is the all-forgiving, the all-merciful. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. هذه الآية, the Shaykh mentions here the story behind when this particular ayah was mentioned, and it's the story of Al-Ifk, when they made the fabrication and they lied against the honor of Aisha radiallahu anha. But if we come to the tafsir of the ayah, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا, اللام لام الأمر. So this is a command here, وَلْيَعْفُوا لام الأمر, وَلْيَصْفَحُوا لام الأمر, and let them pardon and let them overlook and forgive. وَسُكِّنَتْ لِأَنَّهَا أَتَتْ بَعْدَ الْواو. This is just some of the grammar. And then he mentions وَلْيَعْفُوا يعني يَتَجَاوَزُوا عَنِ الْأَخْذِ بِالذَّنْبِ, that they overlook and bypass taking that person upon his sin and holding him accountable upon his sin. That's pardoning, what we've already mentioned. وَلْيَصْفَحُوا, and to leave that affair. يَعْرِضُ عَنْ هَذَا الْأَمْرِ وَلَا يَتَكَلَّمُ فِيهِ. Leave that affair and don't speak about it. They leave the matter and do not speak about it. مأخوذ من صفحة, and then he mentions again the linguistic meaning of it, but وَلْيَصْفَحُوا, meaning to leave that affair, leave it aside, don't talk about it, and they leave it as it is. So the difference, الفرق بين العفو والصفح, أن الإنسان قد يعفو ولا يصفح. The difference is, a person could sometimes pardon someone, but not necessarily forget that thing. He may pardon someone, but he doesn't forget it. He doesn't just leave it. He talks about it. The person did this to me and the person did that to me. He's pardoned the person. He didn't take revenge, didn't do anything, but he hasn't وَلْيَصْفَحُوا, he hasn't done that. الصَّحْ, he hasn't done that. He hasn't left it and overlooked it and not talking about it. He is into that. He's mentioning it and the oppression that was done to him, and this happened and that happened. So a person may pardon someone, but they may not necessarily overlook in terms of leave that affair and shun away and turn away from that affair. بل يذكر هذا العدوان وهذه الإساءة. But you hear that person mentioning this oppression and mentioning this transgression and evil. لكنه لا يأخذ بالذنب فصح أبلغ من مجرد العفو. So a person may talk about it, but he doesn't actually go out and take revenge against that person. So he's technically done the afu, he's pardoned him, but he hasn't overlooked and forgotten that affair. He's talking about it still. Which means therefore, when it says here, وَلْيَصْفَحُوا, is that a greater level than just afu or a lesser level? It's a greater level then. It's a greater level. هذا أبلغ من مجرد العفو. It's a greater level than just pardoning someone, pardoning them and then being able to leave that issue. Pardoning them and being able to leave that issue. And these are types of things which are not easy for mankind to do. A believer with firm and strong iman is able to do these affairs. But it is very cumbersome, very difficult and hard for someone who has weakness inside of him to be able to forgive and to be able to pardon and to be able to leave that affair and not speak of it, even though with qudra, maybe he has the ability to say things and to do things and to take revenge and take certain courses of action, but he pardons that individual and he leaves that affair. And that's why then it says, أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Do you not love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should forgive you? Do you not love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should forgive you? وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all forgiving, is the all merciful. Ghafur, Rahim, these are upon the mubalagha forms. Meaning not just that He is the one who forgives and He is the one who is merciful, but He is the one who oft forgives and is oft merciful, indicating a great amount of that forgiving and a great amount of that mercy. Both of the names upon sighatul mubalagha. But He is the one who is forgiving and He is the one who is merciful, all forgiving, all merciful, greatly forgiving, greatly merciful. So these two names are mentioned together because their meanings are similar. Having forgiveness upon someone and having mercy upon someone, it overlaps. It's very similar to forgive someone, to have mercy upon someone. Because في المغفرة زوال المكروب وآثار الذنب. In forgiving someone, you remove that hardship or the affair from that person and the effects or after effects of the sin. وفي الرحمة حصول المطلوب. And in mercy, you have the attainment of your goal. You have the attainment of your goal. And that's why Allah mentioned about paradise, Anti rahmati arhamu biki man asha. That you are my mercy, I have mercy upon whom I wish via you. Meaning in paradise they are put in there those who are going to have the mercy of Allah. That is regrettably where we'll have to conclude today. It's going to have to be short, I was late. But inshallah ta'ala, from next time we'll be able to do the full session. Next week inshallah the plan is to begin at 6:30 p.m. inshallah. Today I was delayed, but 6:30 will start next week inshallah ta'ala. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.